Hello, joy. Hello, love. Hello, strength. Hello, hope. It's a new horizon. Hello, peace. Hello, joy. Hello, love. Hello, strength. Hello, hope. It's a new horizon. Yeah. It's a new horizon. Somebody lift those hands. It's a new horizon. I need you to speak it over your own life tonight. It's a new horizon. It's a new horizon.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Propel Deep Dive. It is Wednesday evening, and I am so pleased that you're here. I'm Megan DiMartino, and this is going into our second year of the Propel Deep Dive. It's based on my program, Propel Your Business and Life Activation Program, with the Start module, the Scale module, and then Sustaining Your Business. And it has the component of my 5 C's to start any business, anything that you do, which is clarity, courage, confidence, commitment, and compassion. And tonight we will be delving into that deep dive with my guest, because the most important thing to me is you. And for you to see that you are in the middle of everyone's story. It may not be your story. It may not be the actual circumstances or happen chances. But the bottom line is that we all have a story and we all have a journey. And I want to give you that encouragement and understanding that you too can start no matter where you are. And it may be starting over. It may be repositioning your business. I've had so many evolutions. It's like I can't even, when I share my own story, going back, depends on where I start, it just continues on. But the thread of it all is the beginning of knowing my passion and purpose. So the bottom line is that we all have that story. So we're here to help you with that. And so tonight I have my dear friend, Bob Donnell with us. And we were speaking in the green room about where we met. We were speaking with, chatting with Angeline Moore, my right arm, my producer of this show. And again, it's always to be open. It's always to really uncover who and what is out there and just be available. So without further ado, I'd like to invite you to meet my friend, Bob Donnell.
Well, hi, Megan. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We went on, we've been live for, the beginning of this, Bob. And when I had my unique leaders, it started out live, but then we said, because that was really a podcast more than not. And so we then pre-recorded it. And when I started this last February 23, I said to Angeline, I want to do this live. I want to do this on StreamYard so we can bring in also in the green room our, guests, as I call our people that are joining us. But then I said to her, as this year was beginning, I want to be able to, we were always streaming it out to YouTube and LinkedIn, but I said, I want this to go into Instagram. So the first night that we went live on Instagram, you came in. And the first night, honestly. So again, that being present and that availability, So you came on and you made a comment. Now I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see very well, but the point is that Angeline handles all of that and she'll stream all of your information. But anyway, you came on and I said, Bob Donnell, I would love to have Bob on, the Propel Deep Dive. So here you are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's going to be fun.
Very much so. So as we begin tonight, what I would love you to do, Bob, because I've done some research and I've been, with you in a few of your projects, but I would love you to give our audience a snapshot of young Bob, a bit about your background, where the story began, and also where you started. But so go to that place and then we'll go on from there. So meaning, where did you start this journey of the next level?
Yeah. When I was, I was raised in Southern California most of my life. I was born in Oklahoma, but moved here when I was, a young kid. And I was raised by a single mom who was raising myself and my two brothers. And, she'd been kind of sick a lot during when I was growing up. So I was, forced to do a lot of things early in life. And when I was 15, she was diagnosed with cancer and told she was going to give 6 months to live.
Oh, wow.
And so we were living in Texas at the time, and I was a sophomore in high school. And I remember didn't really comprehend what that meant. She had cancer. She was going to die in 6 months. So much denial at 15. You're like, nah, she's going to live forever type of thing. She ended up living 2 years. So it was at least 17. But, in that moment, your life changes forever, but you don't really know how it's going to change. And you don't really know how people are going to enter your life at 15. But I had a gentleman at 15 come up to me and say, Bob, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I remember asking him, I tell him, I don't know, but why are you asking a 15-year-old that? I mean, I have no clue. And he said something very astute that I later realized why he said it. He said, because you can learn a product or service or an industry, or you can learn everything, something that drives every product, every service, and every industry. And I said, what's that? And he said, human behavior. If you understand human behavior, you'll be effective in anything that you do. I said, okay, fair enough. Sign me up. And he goes, okay. Now I'm saying it for, seditious, kind of, just kind of jokingly. And he goes, okay, great. Go back into school and become a peer counselor. I don't even know if we have a peer counseling program at school. He goes, well, through your church or whatever. I said, okay. So I became a peer counselor, and that was at 15 and a half, 16. And at 19, I founded a nonprofit organization working with suicide prevention, crisis intervention, drug addictions, all those kind of things with parents and their kids. That's kind of the trajectory that it started on. Really, I had no idea why.
I want to interrupt. You
Yeah.
said peer counselor.
Peer counseling,
So find that, because I've never heard the term. Never.
Peer counseling is like peer to peer. So student to student, parent to parent, those types of things. So I was in high school. So the best I could have really become was a peer counselor, something that, some schools, some organizations, some cities even have peer counseling programs where you can become a student, get some training in counseling, get some training in rapport building, those kind of things, active listening, and then graduate into that. And if that's something you want to continue, then, there's ways to do that. I just happen to have a great gentleman in my life who was an attorney of one of the kids I was working with. And he said, he called me to his office one day. And I said, why am I going to his office? I mean, I've been to his house. Why am I going to his office? I got there and he says, well, sit down. And I said, okay. And he goes, you've done a really good job with our son. I think you need to play a bigger game. Now, for those of you who understand what a bigger game is, at 19, I really didn't. I was like, what's that look like? He says, well, you become a 501c3 nonprofit. You have a board of directors, and you go out and speak and raise money, and you work on a bigger scale, work with more people. I'm like, okay, you're over my head, 19. I'm really not sure how that all happens. You say board of directors, who's going to put their stamp of approval on a 19-year-old kid? Because, well, if you have an attorney on your board of directors, other people will feel comfortable because they'll feel protected. And I said, okay. And he goes, I'll be the attorney on record. That was where I first learned borrowed credibility. Man, I had no idea how I was going to approach people, but he said, say this, then this, then this to these types of people and let them decide whether they want to be a member. So I had 7 people I wrote down on the list: psychologist, psychiatrist, sergeant of narcotics for Los Angeles County PD, just a principal of a public school. And I had these people, and all 7 said yes. 6 on the first call. 1 said, I need to call you when I get back in town. And they all said yes. That was where I really learned the magic of having somebody who has a higher level of credibility than you do help you organize those thoughts. And it was great training for me.
So let's start from there, because you were 19 and you did not have a college degree at this time, whether you
Still
went on
don't.
or not.
Still don't.
Okay, so meaning that I want to highlight this. This is truly a propel your business and life
Absolutely.
statement, because I want you folks that are listening to see that when you say, oh, I have no this, I have no that, this person just had a God-given field of favor, and that you didn't even know, that term or anything about that, but you did what was innate to you, and working, as a peer counselor. Wow, borrowed credibility,
Mm.
guys, write that down, because again, that is about that, power of association. That's about people that you are aligned with. And so that attorney who you had worked with his son said, wow, this kid, this young man has tremendous talent and ability. So was he a mentor throughout your early years?
Yeah, definitely for those few years, he was definitely a great mentor and just an amazing guy. Great, his whole family was really, really great people, and he helped me set up my 501(c)(3). He helped me do it. Um, One of the greatest things about my board of directors was that they were all people that were committed to helping me become the best person that I could be during that time. So they didn't just say, like, he is an attorney. He didn't say, okay, here's what you do. He said, here, come to my office. Here's the books you're going to need to understand and read. And here's how you're going to file for the US. And here's how you're going to file for the state seals and all that. And I'm like, okay. And I said, so who's going to help me? He goes, you're going to do it. My assistant, my secretary will actually help you fill out the paperwork and all that, but you're going to do it so that you know how to do it. And I had a great board of directors, psychologists, psychiatrists, marriage family therapists that all had the same agreement with me. They said, we'll help you. We'll work with anybody you bring to us for free on one condition, that is that you have to be involved in all the sessions we give away.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
it was what an education. I mean, to sit in,
Yes.
several, probably over 100. If I could count them all up, I would. But probably over 4 or 5 years, probably over 100 sessions where a psychiatrist is meeting with a kid, maybe meeting with the parents, and I'm forced to sit in and listen and take notes and be a student. What a great education.
Oh my goodness, yes. So it's applied. Napoleon Hill, it's applied, from life, and it's far better to glean that information that way, because it's lifelong. It's those relationships, and it just builds upon itself. So I went into your website, Bob,
Mm.
and your company or your business is called everythingnextlevel.com is your website. I'm sure Angeline putting that up there. And you have a quote, which I did put in the post today: whatever becomes acceptable becomes inevitable.
Wow.
Wow, that was such a slam and a knock in my face, because it really, if you really pay attention, like you're talking about, meaning you learn from these individuals, but if you really pay attention to what people say,
Mm.
you will gain so much wisdom and
Yeah.
so much information, those insights. So that quote came from something. So do share with that.
I've written over 150 what I call next level pillars, and that's one of them. And that's one of the ones I wrote. And they typically come out of a set of circumstances or an event that happens. I think, if I remember correctly, that was written probably 15 years ago, maybe
Okay.
20. And I think I wrote it down because something was happening, and I said, if I allow that to happen, it's just gonna become inevitable. Whatever I allow is just going to become inevitable. And I started thinking about that in every other aspect of my life. Like, whatever becomes acceptable. Am I accepting this?
Mhm.
If I accept it, once I say okay, then it just becomes inevitable. If and it has to do with everything in our lives: relationships, finances, business, spiritual connection, everything. Once we say I accept it as it is, then it becomes inevitable, good and bad. So I'll give a great example. Is I had a woman one day. come up to me and say, Bob, I'm really struggling. I just keep gaining weight and losing weight, gaining weight and losing weight. I'm just miserable. And I could tell that she was really fed up. She was just miserable. And I said, how long has it been acceptable to be fat? And I know some people are going to say, Bob, that's an inappropriate term. I wanted it to land hard. I wanted her to take it and go, wow. And she says, it's never been acceptable. It doesn't matter what I say. How long has it been acceptable to be overweight? How long has it been acceptable to be in a bad relationship? How long has it been acceptable to be broke? No matter what you say, 99% of the people say it's never been acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh no, there was a moment of acceptability. She says, what was that? I said, well, you tell me. Was there ever a time when you went into your closet and you put on a pair of jeans that were too tight? And she goes, like this morning? I said, okay. Yeah. I said, what did you do? Well, I put them back on the shelf and I said, you reach for another pair of jeans that fit more comfortably. She says, yeah. I said, that was the moment of acceptability. Because once you did that, the next day you didn't go in and go, let me try that tight pair of pants again. You went for the looser pair of pants because you didn't want to go through that again. She says,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I said, law of acceptability says whatever becomes acceptable becomes inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
She says,
Wow.
wow. Okay. So how do we fix that? I said, you need to make the right things acceptable and not the wrong things. She says, give me an example. I said, when you were a young girl, was there ever a time when an older man looked at you maybe in a way that you felt uncomfortable? She goes, yeah. I said, give me an example. She goes, I was walking through the mall with my mom, and my mom is large busted, and I was growing my bust, and they were getting bigger. And this man was walking by us, and I noticed for the first time that somebody was looking at me longer than he looked at my mom. And I went, did you feel uncomfortable? She goes, yes. I said, so did you want men to do that? She goes, no. And I said, so if you didn't want them to do that, when did you start wearing baggier clothes?
Mm.
She goes, within a year, 17. I said, so when would you like that to change? She goes, I don't ever want men to look at me that way. And I said, okay, but when will it become acceptable for men to look at you differently than that man looked at you? She goes, and the light bulb went on. She says, now. And I said, do you want a loving relationship? She says, yeah. I said, do you want a man to desire you, want you? She goes, yes. I said, then maybe you just start making that more acceptable for them to look at you a certain way. She says, like what? And I said, how about if you just fix your hair? How about if you just maybe, take the cap off, maybe just start. And she goes, I said, stop wearing such baggy clothes. Maybe just a little bit more fitting clothes. I said, start looking like you want to be, what you wanted to look. You wanted to look a certain way, but you shelved that because of the way somebody made you feel. She was, yeah. Well, a few months later, she had lost weight. She was looking great. She had a great relationship. And she goes, once I made that acceptable, that became inevitable too.
Mm-hmm.
And I said,
Wow.
so whether it's good or bad, whatever we make acceptable becomes inevitable.
Oh, wow, Bob. Wow. Immediately when I read it, I thought about the state of the world. And you wrote this 20 years ago, as you shared. And when you were speaking about this woman, by the way, so much of my own personal life flashed in front of me, but that is for another time. But I was thinking about the state of the world, and you get so not only apathetic, but inured by just fear and exhaustion and confusion. And so that is that shift of the mind of what's not acceptable in the past was not,
Right.
has become acceptable. And once it becomes acceptable, it becomes inevitable.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It was probably one of my favorite pillars because it's just, it can, everything falls under that.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Everything.
or bad.
Yeah, it's a benchmark type of thing. It's
Really
it's
is.
one of those foundational benchmark things that to weigh things, because I think that why it hit me also was, and this is what when I think of Bob Donnell, I think of wisdom, and I think of just having dealt with a lot of heartache and a lot of challenges in your life, and you can share some of that if you'd like, but for our guests, but you handle it with such grace, and you have, Mark Victor Hansen, wasn't it, did a testimonial in your books, and I was thinking about you and your stature. I'm going to use that term, and or position with some of these people that are highly regarded, and but it's that wisdom, and that's what that gentleman saw back when you were 19 or 15, and then on. But it's everything next level, and I do want you to share about everything next level. What does that really mean to you? That just a term, everything next level.
Yeah, we hear the term next level all the time.
Yeah, we do.
And when I named my company many years ago, I thought, what's a term that is always used that could be branding me just by the simple nature of everyone using it? And I said, I really like the term next level. And because I'd been working with people on getting to their next level in life and health and relationship, businesses, all those kind of things, I thought, how about just everything next level? I mean, everything. Because people say, well, what's my next level? I don't know. That's up to you. What is your next level? Personally, professionally? And so when I decided to name it, it was under the name of Next Level. And then I just added everything next level, because I started thinking about every aspect of our life. There's one of the next level pillars is every next level demands a different you.
Ooh.
So you can't stay the same and get to the next level. You will have to change. And it doesn't request it. It doesn't ask it of you. It demands it of you. So every next level demands a different you. And so when I look at next level, I think, what is someone's next level? I can't determine that. You can't determine it. They have to decide that. What is it? It might be, I work with a lot of people that have a lot of money, have done very successful, and their next level has nothing to do with making more money. It might have to do with how do I leave a legacy? How do I take this money and allocate it so that I create a legacy, an ongoing something for my family, or for a scholarship fund or something like that? So it really boils down to the individual, what they want to be their next level. And it may have nothing to do with money. And so that's the only negative I've ever had with next level is everyone thinks, oh, so more money. I don't know. It doesn't have to be that. It might just be that you might want to have less money and you just might give more away. I don't know what that is. But I've found it to be true that no matter what, people use the term next level. And when they do, they'll look at me and go, has nothing to do with me, but the brand is there.
I sold a portion of my spa business in 20. Some guy knocked on my door, literally knocked on. I never went dark. I was there as March 30th, honestly, and 20. And so the place was closed, but we sell products, and skincare products, and people still had birthdays and anniversaries. So what did I do? I started a live and a podcast, and I just did projects, right? Yeah. And also the warehouse was closed in Dallas. So if people wanted things on the shopping cart, as long as FedEx was open, I was the shipper. so whatever. Sure. So anyway, this guy knocks on the door and, would you like to sell me your business? I'm like, I don't know. And so he came in. But the reason I share this is this was 17 years of 7 days a week. And I had been praying about it, Bob, meaning, Lord, I had employees that I loved. They were like daughters. Sure. Guests and clients that, were very, very meaningful. How do you change this? So anyway, but when the guy came in, I knew it was God. I knew it was an answer to a prayer. I didn't sell him the trade name or the product line, the skincare product line of the same name, and the URL, of course. He didn't understand it and want it. It was really the value of the business, but he didn't understand it. Anyway, point is, I called Sharon Lecter, and I've said this times, but I said, I've never had a real mentor, and I need to wrap my brain around what's going on here. And she said to me, Megan, you're not retiring, you're refiring. And, that it's incumbent upon me to take these 30 years of work to put it together in a package, so to speak. And that's really how the Propel program started.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
but you're not retiring, you're refiring.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Sharon's great at that.
oh, well,
She's
she's
brilliant.
she's brilliant. But back to the next level. Everything is a next level.
Everything.
I didn't approach it from I'm going to the next level. I mean, it was just evolving, but I love that word demand because that's a decision. And everything is about a decision.
That's right.
You
That's right.
have to make that decision. Every next level demands a different you. Well, I was evolving, and so there's a lot more to that story, but that is the bottom. I don't know if Eric Swanson, I saw him come up.
I saw Eric. Yeah, yeah. Eric's a great guy.
Hello, Eric. Hello, hello.
Eric, hey, brother.
He's got to come on here one of these years and days and so forth. But okay, so the other, I don't know if it was a pillar, but the sweet spot between personal and professional development. I love that too, because it's sort of like what I just said, it's that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Because Propel is a business, it's a branding of this, but it's that sweet spot. So explain what that means to you.
Yeah, I had a gal that worked for me, really just an amazing woman, and she was organizational development. Her master's was in organizational development. She said to me, she says, Bob, she goes, you're kind of the sweet spot between personal and professional development. I said, explain. So she drew two circles and they overlapped each other. And in the middle where they overlapped, she said, that's you. There's personal development and there's professional development. That where they overlap, though, that's the sweet spot. That's you. That's next level. And I went, And I'm glad I could get her then, because I certainly couldn't afford her now with her. She's very successful in corporate America, and amazing, just the way she thought of that. I was like, So I started using that. That's kind of the sweet spot between personal and professional development, and that's where it came from.
Do you feel that most, because that's why I added the word, propel your business and life, business and life, because and that was really what was missing in my life with that 7-day-a-week thing.
Sure.
I had no life.
Right.
None. And so it was helping me. I mean, now I'm working on me with that, creating that business and life synergy together to have one successful life. Because as again, Sharon Lecter says, and other people, I've heard them say this, but without a life, you have a business, you have a job.
Sure. Absolutely true. And I think we've all felt that from time to time. We've all felt that at least one time or another. And I think it's just a great thing to constantly be reminding us that do we have a business or do we have a job?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very
great illustration.
Balance between the two. It's imperative. So it's, here we are in 2024. And so with it, the sweet spot, meaning business development, personal development, which is what Bob Donnell is about. So just share with our guest, do you do business coaching, mentoring? I know you're a speaker and an author, but what does your daily life look like?
Yeah, I have both personal and professional coaching, consulting, whatever's necessary. But yeah, I do a lot of one-on-one and group coaching, preferably group. One-on-one is very exclusive. I don't want to do a lot of one-on-one. It's just not scalable, and it's not. I don't feel it's as beneficial a lot of times as a group is, because you get the collective thoughts of other people. And when I do my group coaching, I do one Wednesdays at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I've done it for many years. And we do it via Zoom, so everyone can participate. Everyone can be on camera if they want. If they don't want to, they just want to be a fly on the wall, they can be. But they can come on, ask any question, personal or professional. It'll be laser-focused coaching on that specific topic, and everyone else can listen in. So the nice thing is you might get on and not even have anything, but somebody says something, and all of a sudden you say, that's something I struggle with too. We get that collective thought. It's not a mastermind. It's very one-on-one coaching, me to them. And but I love the format. It works out really well. I have some one-on-one coaching clients as well, and that's that's a very exclusive situation. I take that very limited because there's just I don't want to have a lot of hours dedicated to that.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you about group, because every group that I'm in, you glean from not just the
Tons.
leader, but really more the other people,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then back to the individual. Um, I was at a conference recently, Bob, and the word biz ministry was utilized.
Hmm.
Okay, and
Biz ministry.
biz,
I like
B-I-Z,
that. Yeah, yeah.
ministry.
Hmm.
And I mean, well, the person just said it globally
Yeah,
and grabbed the biz-ministry.com,
love it.
but that's not where I'm going with this. But it hit me so strongly that I immediately called Angeline and said, let's see if that's available. But what I want to ask you is, you are a spiritual man,
Yes,
you
Christian.
have a sweet spot, and you do both, and because one is not exclusive of the other, because we
Right.
all have business of sorts. But when you hear the term biz ministry, what does that mean to you? What does that evoke?
What it evokes in me is probably the best way to describe that for me is that your ministry is your business and your business is your ministry. Um, at 15 and a half, I went to church camp, and I remember the pastor who was teaching it um, was speaking, and I went to his cabin that evening, and I said, "Hey, Pastor Dr. Jack Johnson was his name, amazing guy who led me to the Lord when I was in fifth grade, and but we had lost track with each other for many years, and then all of a sudden I'm going to this youth camp, and he happens to be the guest speaker for the weekend for that youth camp, and I asked him, I said, how do you know a calling? What's your calling? And he goes, you'll know. When you know, you know. And I went, well, but Dr. Johnson, what does that mean? He goes, it'll be something that you feel that God's calling and you can't do anything other than answer it. You can answer no,
Right.
or you can answer yes, but you will feel that you have to answer the question. I said, oh. So I'm at camp. He's speaking that night, and I remember just feeling this tugging. It was July 19, 1979. I'm 15 years old. July 19, 1979. I'll never forget it. And I remember hearing him speak, and all of a sudden I went, that's what he's talking about. And so that night I walked forward and I said, I don't know what I'm surrendering to. I don't know if it's a pastor, if I'm going to become a youth. I don't know. But whatever that calling is, I want to surrender to it. And so I would love to say that trajectory was always clear and easy to do. It wasn't. And it wasn't always followed and adhered to the way I wanted to. But that's where I really began to go, living is ministry and ministry is living. Business is ministry and ministry is business.
And I'm praying about what to do and work with that, because what you just said,
Yeah,
because the word ministry, I was listening to Pedro Adeo. I don't know if you know Wisdom
I
Challenge.
don't.
He's an interesting man
Hmm.
with his 31-day challenge of Proverbs. But anyhow, yeah, Pedro Adeo, you should look him up. But
I will.
he's in California actually. But he just recently, I had that experience, and just recently he came on, and I don't want to go off on this trail, but he was talking about the word ministry, that it's gotten so churchy, and you're, like you said, his parents are from Portugal, and he said, in Europe, I mean, there's the minister of this and the minister of
Yeah.
that. And he said, it's what you just said. It's your calling, and the business and the calling, and it's like your sweet spot, that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the word ministry, but you're right. It gets convoluted because of what people want it to, way they want it to mean versus what it really means.
Right.
I think, ministry can be just, hugging people and comforting people and, taking care of the elderly. You can do so many different things under the name of ministry. I think business ministry I think that's a great concept.
Yeah, I'm praying about it.
Yeah.
Well, as we not wind down, because there's no winding down at this moment, but that's actually this ministry. You're the first person I asked that, because that just 2 weeks ago. Is that before we invite our guests in, and if not, we'll just continue on because I've got a host of questions here. Is that before we invite our guests in, I ask, and we kind of overlapped here a little bit with the biz ministry thing, but I ask all my guests, because you've spoken about your life, so to speak, the young man, now you went back to church camp, so this evolution. And like you said, you've gleaned through this, that whole essence of Bob. But what is your passion and what is your purpose?
I think I wrote it down as a mission, and that was to impart vision and inspire strategic action. Vision, without vision, people perish. The Bible talks about that. But also, without action, not much happens. And so to impart vision and to inspire strategic action, I think is probably what I've deemed as my mission for the last 20 years, 25 years.
So vision and action. Yes.
Yeah.
And they truly, again, it's that seeing it, that visualization, right?
Well, and the vision is what, to use your term, propels the
Okay.
action. What actually makes us do the action, even when we don't feel like it.
Okay.
It's that thing that pulls us or pushes us towards that destination, even when we're not feeling like it, even when we're not comfortable doing it. If the calling is strong enough, the vision is strong enough, we'll do it even no matter what.
I see now. I get it. I get it. Yes. I mean, and I personally understand that very,
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah.
because there are days that I say, oh, what am I doing? But it is that vision that propels me. That, yes, Bob, that is truth.
I had a young man who was on 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. And I remember, many years ago, I was walking down 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. It's kind of a street, concerts, fairs, it's a shopping center, but it's a lot of activity there. And I remember this young man, he was standing there doing handstands on his dad's head.
Oh my
He
God.
was probably, I don't know, 11. And I was like, wow, amazed. He and his dad had this great relationship where he's just doing handstands and his dad's just really, I mean, it's just so beautiful to watch their relationship. Well, 3 or 4 years later, I'm walking down the same street. I see him again. I'm like, how old are you now? He goes, 14. I said, do you ever have a day when you don't feel like performing, like don't feel like being out here? He goes, like today? I said, today? And he goes, yeah. I said, what do you do? He goes, I do it anyways. I thought the wisdom of a 14-year-old to say, I just do it anyways. Obviously his dad was a mentor for him. And, but I think about that sometimes and I think, how many times do we just go, I just don't feel like it. Okay. So then don't do it. How about if you just say, no, I must do it. I know that you as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of things you don't feel like doing, but you do them anyways. There's a lot of things I don't feel like doing, but I do them anyways. And I think that's where the power of association is one of my 7 pillars. One of those things is that the power of association is what compels us to do it, even when we don't feel comfortable, because they'll hold us accountable, but they'll also be there to support us when we don't feel like doing it. They'll be there to support us anyways.
So true. That leads me to, I'm going to go off here. Angeline, is there anyone in the green room?
Yes, we have Brian and Brian Coletto in the house. Welcome, Brian, to the stage and introduce you to Bob Donnell.
Brian?
Before we continue, I just want to say shout out to all of our Clubhouse participants that are listening, that we're streaming into. C Hill, hello. Tevin, Jackie, Robert, Manny, Mark, Hannock, thank you so much for joining us. Over on Facebook, we have Jim Miller, Flo Mina, and Eric Swanson has said hi and are active in the chat right now. Over on Instagram, we have some participants over there too. Dodge Girls on there, Vincent Design, Mr. Chris, Valdez, Gabriella, And of course, we have our YouTube and LinkedIn people. So hello, hello, hello. Welcome
Hi, guys.
to Propel.
Thank you, Angeline. So is Brian, are you going to come on? Hello,
Yes,
Brian.
I'm going to come on. Thank you so much. Yeah, hi there, Megan. Hi, Bob.
Hello, Bob.
Great to see you, guys. And
So Brian, before you, let me just set up a little bit about you, okay? Is that all
yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah,
Brian Leto is a young man that I've met initially on Clubhouse. Okay. And, like when Angeline said Clubhouse and I waved, well, no one's going to see your face on Clubhouse.
Right.
Like, I don't know why I waved there, but
I
Brian,
followed you.
yeah, exactly. Hell, but the other platforms they can see us, and of course it's the replay are there as well. But anyhow, I met Brian on Clubhouse, and what was interesting, or getting to know Brian, is really through this Propel season of he coming on. Now, first off, I knew he, and he had spoken in some rooms, and this is from 2021, 22, that type of timeline. But Brian lives in central New Jersey, and he has autism, and he has had obviously autism his entire life. And so he's had a challenging life. And he, though, has taken that that challenge, and utilized it to, I don't want to say to his advantage, but to utilize it. And now it's his vision, hello, and action. Okay.
Nice.
Okay. And so he'll share, he works with a nonprofit with special needs folks. But yet, what I'm so impressed, Bob, about this young man is that, and he will share this, that having come on to initially Clubhouse, but now as an influencer, goodness gracious, I certainly am not, on LinkedIn.
Wow.
Wow.
Awesome.
And other platforms like that, because now he's doing videos, and I mean, everyone watches them and they are so enthralled by it. But on the other side, it's to his community, giving them that encouragement. And to go, everything is next level, Brian.
Okay.
So have you been here the whole evening, Brian, listening to Bob?
I've been here for about 20 minutes.
Okay, so not the entire time. Okay. Well, Brian, Bob and I met, and I've been in some of his coaching group coaching back a couple, maybe 20 during that early stages of COVID. But the thing is that we have never really had a conversation like this, Brian. We have not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, when Bob came on the first night we went live in the beginning of this year onto Instagram, he came on. I was like, I'm going to invite Bob Donnell.
Love it.
Yeah. So it's that connection.
Yeah.
And so Brian has, and I see this, Bob, every guest, because he comes on each week and he may just be at the end, but he has met, some really fabulous people and they've become friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
he's their communication, and it's just so awesome.
Awesome.
Just so
Great
awesome.
job, Brian.
Mm-hmm,
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm kind of like a proud mama here.
Yeah.
So yes. So anyway, now that's the backstory, Brian. So you can ask Mr. Bob anything you'd like. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so yeah, that was a little bit of background about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know too much of the story at the moment, but I guess my question is, how long have you been coaching? Because that's what I can gather from what Megan has said.
Yeah, the term coaching wasn't really around when I started doing what I've been doing. It was more consulting. It was more, helping with, working with types of things. The term coaching became an industry, several years ago. And so I would say I've been doing human behavior, understanding, studying human behavior since 15 years old. So, and I'm 60 now, so 45 years. Although it's taken a lot of different forms over the years, in the last 20 years, it's become more coaching and working with teams, companies, and individuals, helping them determine their vision and establish an implementation method for them to achieve that vision. So that's probably the long answer to what the question was.
With that answer, Bob, why don't you share, because that's why I asked him when he came in.
Yeah.
Why don't you share just about the peer counseling? Because one of the things that what Brian wants to do, and I do share with Bob and the audience, Brian, what you do. But the one thing I didn't finish that point, that he's now going out to, one of the reasons I changed it to Wednesday night is a lot of networking things are Thursday night, and it was difficult for people. But anyway, the point is that he's now going to chambers all through that central Jersey. He's networking. He is, bringing awareness not only to autism, but also he has a heart to connect and just be the best he can be. That next level.
Yeah.
So share that peer counselor, that story, because he did not hear that.
Yeah. Well, one, I want to just tell you thank you for what you're doing, Brian. I know some people with autism, and I know some friends that have children that are autistic. So I just want to thank you for the work you're doing, because it's meaningful, it's powerful, and it's absolutely necessary. So thank you for that. Mine started when I was 19. When I was 15, I was asked by a gentleman, what do I want to be when I grew up? I said, I don't know. He said, if you understand human behavior, you can help anybody. If you understand why people do or don't do it. I said, oh, okay, well, sign me up. And he goes, become a peer counselor. What's a peer counselor? He goes, well, through your school, through your church, through civic organizations, go out and become a peer counselor where you can actually help other people your age. I said, okay. So I started doing that. And then later on, 5 years later, or 4.5 years later, I started a nonprofit organization. So working with suicide prevention, crisis intervention, drug addictions, all those kind of things. And so I love the path you're on. It will serve you well, I'm sure, but in serving others, it will serve you even better. So.
Mm-hmm. And the other piece to his story, Brian, is that I'm just looking at my notes, that at the age he was, and he started the 501c3, it's that power of association, Brian, that we spoke about. And his board were all people that educated him, so to speak, in his evolution of his next step, his next level of career. So it's about surrounding yourself with Bob Donnell and other people like this, like Rachel Weaver last week and Katie Mayers and so forth, that will help you propel your business and life, Brian. So Bob, that's why I do this.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I can definitely see why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the best education I ever got was never in college. And I went to college for 2 years. But after that, I had a board of directors of psychologists, psychiatrists, marriage family therapists, sergeant of narcotics for LA County PD, an attorney, a principal of a public school. And that became my faculty. I started realizing that they were teaching me more than I was learning in school. Not to discount college at all, not to say don't. I just realized that what I was getting was my education was from people that were going to teach me that practically. So they let me sit in all their sessions, let me attend board meetings. I surrounded myself with people that were where I wanted to be. And I'll give you an example if you guys don't mind. I had a gentleman one day. He made $6 million 1 year, and he went to my church. And everyone was talking about this guy and how he made all this money 1 year. And I went to him and I went, "Hey, Rich, his name was Rich. Funny how that is. Can I buy you breakfast sometime?" He goes, "Sure." So we meet at this restaurant called Mimi's Cafe. We meet for breakfast. And as soon as I sit down, he goes, "I know why you want to have breakfast." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because you want to know how I made all that money. Because everyone's talking about how much money I made last year." I said, Well, no, I really don't care how you made the money because there's a million different ways to make money. But I do have a different question for you. And he said, what's that? Brian, here's what I've learned over the years. The quality of my connection with someone will be based on the quality of questions that I ask of myself and of them. So I said, who did you have to become in order to make that kind of money? Because if you became a jerk, I don't care how much money it is. I don't want to do that. He says, Bob, I've never been asked the question. I said, what's the answer? He goes, I don't know. He goes, I have to think about that. So I said, okay, while you're thinking about that, here's my other question. Can I work for you 1 day a week for free? Doing what? I said, I don't know. Whatever you want me to do. 1 day a week for free for an indefinite amount of period of time. You tell me how long, we'll just do it. And he goes, Bob, I'm 42 years old and I'm retired. I have nothing for you to do. I said, I'll be your chauffeur. I will be your caddy on the golf course. I don't care what. He goes, why would you be willing to do that? I said, because I want to learn how you live your life.
Oh.
And he said, come to my house on Thursday or whatever it was. And I said, okay. Showed up at his house. As I'm walking up the driveway, he has a really beautiful home. So I'm walking up the driveway. He says, get in the car. I said, where are we going? He goes, when somebody is mentoring you, you just say, okay, and you get in the car. I said, fair enough. I got in the car. We drove down to downtown Los Angeles. I'll shorten this story. It's a great story, but I'll shorten it. We went down to downtown Los Angeles, looked up at this big skyscraper, and he says, we're going to go to the top floor. And there's a company I'm thinking about buying, and we're going to meet with their board of directors. We're going to meet with their attorneys, their CPAs, and my attorney and my CPA are going to meet us there, and we're going to have a discussion whether I should buy the company or not. I said, okay. I said, what do you want me to do? He goes, be a fly on the wall. Best advice I ever got. So, okay, great. Get to the top floor. We'll go into this boardroom. He's got his attorney there, his CPA, their attorney, their CPA, their president. And he says to his CPA, he says, I want you to go over the profit and loss statements with Bob and explain why this does or doesn't make sense for us to buy it. And he goes into his attorney. He says, I want you to go down with the contract with Bob, and I want you to discuss what needs to change for this contract to be something I'm willing to sign. So literally, that whole day was devoted to them teaching me about profit and losses, all the whole bit. And the best thing was every day that I worked with him for 6 months, every day that I worked with him, it was filled with that kind of education. I had somebody say, Bob, you got a PhD in business in 6 months.
Wow.
Because I was able to sit in on these meetings. He took me to shareholder meetings. He took me to buildings where he was buying the apartment building, buying a commercial business. And I got to sit in on those contract negotiations. I got to sit in and see why it didn't make sense. So much education. And it was all because I just said, what can I do? How can I be of service? And would you be willing to teach me? And I tell you, that was the best education. It was phenomenal.
Thank you for sharing that, because I'm going to think about who I'm going to ask to, work for free. Honestly.
Yeah, I'm telling you, offering to work for free for people puts your ego in check, puts the ego aside, and lets them know that you're willing to do it, even if you're not getting paid. And ultimately, he made me a partner, or I received a benefit of the business, where we bought and sold some real estate, 5 different houses, and he let me sell them, and he had somebody to do the construction work, and then he put up the money. And it was a great thing because he saw my willingness, and I really wanted to learn. I had another gentleman. I was driving down the freeway, driving down the street in San Gabriel Valley, and there was a guy in a Rolls Royce next to me at a stoplight. Brian, I don't recommend this today, but it was a great experiment. I pulled up next to this guy in a Rolls Royce. I'm in a little Hyundai Excel, and I roll down my window, and he pulls up to the next light. And we pull up to the next light together. I roll down my window, and he rolls down his. Notice mine was doing this, and his was a button. Big difference. And I said, "Can I buy you lunch someday?" And he goes, "Why?" And I said, "Clearly, you've done something I haven't done at this point in my life. I'd like to learn." He says, "Pull over." He's from the Middle East. I said, "Okay." So I pull over. I walk up thinking we're going to exchange business cards. He goes, "Get in." I'm like, "Okay." Get in his car. We spent the next probably almost 2 hours probably driving around San Gabriel Valley, him showing me apartment building after apartment building, business after building that he had bought over the many years that he had been here. He came over here from the Middle East, brought over one family member at a time, amassed a fortune. And at the end, we're sitting there at lunch, and he says, why would you get into a stranger's car? And I said, because I wanted to learn. I said, but I got a better question. He says, what's that? I said, why would you let a stranger into your car?
Right.
And he starts laughing, and he goes, same answer, because you wanted to learn. He goes, Bob, I can count thousands of people that ask me to help them, that want me to teach them what I know. He goes, but very few people will say, help me learn. And he says, the fact that you were willing to learn, I knew that it would be worth spending time with you. We spent, a couple hours together. Amazing guy. He's since passed away. Luke Thodum Properties, downtown Los Angeles. Thodum. It was just an amazing conversation. Super, super great. I've had probably 75 of those experiences where I've literally offered to work for somebody for free, learn, educate, whatever I can do to be of service to them. And it's been an amazing ride.
Wow, what a great place to end this. Applied knowledge, and that is part of your DNA, Mr. Bob Donnell. But that is I don't know if it's a learned character, but I mean, that's part of you. But you people that are listening, folks, it is about being available and open. And it's when preparedness rather meets opportunity, you are ready. Yeah. And so, wow, what a great evening, Bob. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
As we
Brian,
close,
it was great to meet you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add or share, or thoughts or whatever, Brian, before we close this evening? I think he's muted, but anyway. Well, thank you, Bob.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I know, and Angeline throughout the evening has been putting up on the trailer your information, and please do contact Bob Donnell, because Brian, you're muted. You're muted, my friend. Oh, he said goodbye. Anyway, I could tell there was something going on in the background there. So, but he's a special guy, and there's so many come and go here, and that is so worth it to do this. People, thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. We'll see you again.
All right.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, another evening with Propel Deep Dive. I'm so grateful for Bob Donnell to join us tonight and share his brilliance and wisdom and heart. And that is who he is. We are here every Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock Central and different time zones. But do join us in the Propel community. I'm sure the link to joining us is there, because it is a community and it's building, and there's so many fabulous things that we're doing with fabulous people. Every day we do the Propel Daily, a nugget of inspiration and encouragement, and then a newsletter of the motivation mindset is weekly, comes to you directly when you're a member of or part of the community. And of course, with information that, with like the deep dives on Wednesday night, there are notifications that come out. And on April 4th and 5th, we're going to do our first Propel Your Business and Life. And it's going to be, and I'm not calling it a summit, it's going to be called an empowerment journey together with speakers. And we're going to do a panel with each day. So do mark your calendars for April 4th and 5th for the expansion Propel. It is going to be an empowerment challenge, and that is April 4th and 5th. So you'll receive notifications of that, but that's down the road. Every week we just continue to expand the horizon of the Propel Your Business and Life community. So go to the Sparkle Tree, as Angeline calls it, and all of that information is there as well. So I say goodnight to you. I'll see you tomorrow morning on the Propel Daily with a nugget of inspiration and encouragement, and then continue on. But if nothing more, join us in the Propel community. Have a blessed evening, and we'll see you next Wednesday night in the Propel Deep Dive. Be blessed.